Hi YouTube, this is We All Juggle Knives with a review of an Anza knife. Now this video is going to be about the one in the middle, but you see it there with all 5 of the Anzas that I currently own. Now some people don't like the way Anza knives look. I personally love the way they look. I think they have a lot of character. You know, I was watching Nut and Fancy's video on Anza knives, and some of the commenters who were complaining that the knives, just didn't look pretty enough. You know, these Anza knives have been around since around 1980, and I'm pretty sure some of the commenters had not been around since 1980, so just be open-minded. It's not supposed to look like your Bear Grylls knife. Alright, the sheath on an Anza knife, it's pretty basic, not gonna lie about that. It's not tactical kydex, it's just your basic traditional stitched leather sheath that overlaps the handle. It's got a belt loop, and that's pretty much the sheath that you get. Now the knife itself, okay, the item number on this, AZMC3M. Okay, and I paid $70 for this blade. I will include Amazon links, but I don't know what the prices will be. I would recommend you do shop around. The blade length is 3.55 inches, and this has gray micarta handle scales. Now, micarta is a nice material. It provides a good grip. Even when it gets wet, it still provides a pretty good grip. You see the shape of the handle. It's comfortable with a finger groove, and the knife has a guard. Now, the blade itself, first of all, the steel on these is 1095. They are made from files, but there's nothing magic about that. It's 1095 high carbon. And the actual edge length on this was 3.15. There it is with its little brother. That's a little Bowie neck knife that I just could not resist. Who doesn't like neck knives? So the review of that knife is upcoming. Stay tuned for that. It's basically a handy, comfortable little neck knife. There you see the knife in hand. Now this is a true full tang. It's very durable, fairly thick stock. That's one thing I like. These are not meant to be wall hangers. You see it has a thumb rest, and it has file work on the spine. But the file work is not meant to be ornamental. It actually serves the same purpose as jimping. Overall, the handle is fairly comfortable. The blade itself, it's slightly longer than what you would call neck knife length, but it has a full 4-finger handle. Now, I tested this on the same day as the smaller Anza, and I have to say there is something to be said for getting a full grip. I was definitely able to apply a lot more force to this blade. Now you see it is a partial hollow grind, but that's not the whole story, right? That goes right up to the edge bevel, and then the relief grind on this is very wide, and it is also very broad. The fact that it's broad gives it strength. The fact that it's a wide relief grind makes it just that much better at slicing. Now sometimes a hollow grind adds weakness because it just makes the knife too thin, but because this knife starts off as a little extra thick, that mitigates the possible drawback of that hollow grind. Now many Anza knives, including this one, are often described as skinners. That's a reference to the blade shape, and really all it means is that they're good at slicing. It does not mean you can only use it for processing game. On the contrary, it's a general purpose outdoor utility knife. Can be used for slicing anything you need, as well as push cutting, making shavings. At this time I'm going to roll in a little bit of usage footage. Now there will be music, so just adjust your volume accordingly. But in this footage I'm carving into a branch, just making some shavings. I thought that would be a little more difficult than like slicing through chicken or pork. Alright, so enjoy this footage. It's not comprehensive, it's simply to get us in the mood and start the conversation going. And we are back. So the knife performed fine. I mean, I liked the full grip that it gave me. Now that was not a torture test because it's a small knife. It's pretty much too small for major batoning or chopping. So as far as general utility, like camp utility, it's more than durable enough for that. It's pretty much overbuilt for that. It would be good for general camp utility with a special emphasis on slicing ability. Now, as far as being made from a file, don't let that confuse you. You know, really it's just 1095. Now, files are very hard, so they do some things to it to soften it to make it better for being a knife. You know, it's basically 1095. And yes, the file texture that's left over on it, you can use that as a file. Like, if you need to repair like the tip of some knife, you can use the file texture as a real file. And again, going back to the appearance of the knife, you know, if the knife is not meant as a collectible, then I don't judge it by its prettiness. I like the rough and rugged look and feel of this knife. I don't really have much patience for people that have an irrational level of, you know, freak out or short circuit just because every single knife in the world doesn't look like a buck 119. I mean, I've shown like probably 700 or 800 knives on this channel. Obviously, if you subscribe to me, be prepared to see stuff that you might not have seen before. I mean, I think most people like that. Anza knives coming at you. Okay, and 2 quick points that came up with my last Anza video. Why don't they use pins for the scales? I don't know, but I've never heard of the scales coming off, and these have been around since 1980. I've never seen a video or heard any report of problem with the scales, so I have confidence in them. Another person mentioned that the files are softened to become better knives, so can you still use them as files? Yes, as long as you're not using them on something with a higher hardness. You know, I use them to repair my throwing knives, and throwing knives generally are not heat treated, so they can easily file the tip of a throwing knife. Alright, and that pretty much wraps up the video. You know, like I said, they have character. They're not the ultimate knife. They have pros and cons like any other knife, but all in all, I really like their selection. I like what they're good at. This has been We All Juggle Knives.